Hello out there, all you beautiful internet people. Today we're talking about a movie that's occupied my mind for some time. Ever since I first saw it years ago, I've been thinking about it and just what a weird, bizarre, terrible film it is. That's right, today we're diving headfirst into Henry Selick's Monkeybone. So buckle up, because this is going to be cringe to the max. I'm not sure exactly why it is people enjoy engaging in revisionist history which often contradicts the established order of facts, like, hey, did you know that Abe Lincoln was actually a bad guy and not a good guy? Hey, did you know that Harriet Tubman sucked? Hey, did you know that French fries aren't actually French? Hey, did you know that Tim Burton didn't actually direct The Nightmare Before Christmas? And a bunch of other weird bullshit that for whatever reason people just enjoy espousing because they think that their exclusivity to it makes them feel superior. They feel as if they know something that nobody else understands. The one about the French fries, for instance, that's a real thing that some snob thought they could put over on me. Hey, did you know that French fries aren't actually French? They're actually Belgian. No, French fries are actually French. Pretty obvious. If they were Belgian, they'd be called Belgian fries. I don't even know why that needs to be historically revised. But narcissists like Kanye, for instance, who discount the contributions of a figure like Harriet Tubman, that's where I'd argue that historical revisionism really goes off the rails and we start detracting from the legacy of really important people who actually contributed a lot to modern society. To a lesser extent, I find it offensive when people say that Tim Burton didn't direct The Nightmare Before Christmas and it was actually Henry Selick. I don't know what people see in this Henry Selick guy. His only claim to fame is ripping off the Tim Burton aesthetic and executing it to a less successful degree. And truth be told, I'm not a mega fan of Tim Burton or anything, but you would have to be patently insane not to admit that Tim Burton is one of the most influential directors of all time. His movies are so iconic and have such a flair to them. Even the less well-remembered ones, like Sleepy Hollow. I would rather watch Sleepy Hollow and watch Johnny Depp as Ichabod Crane than watch 90% of mainstream Hollywood stuff these days. We're a long way off from the era when Sweeney Todd was big and all this whimsy-gothic stuff was in fashion. But nonetheless, I think you'd have to be really misguided not to give Tim Burton due credit. And sure, you could accuse Burton of being a sellout. I hate the Dumbo remake as much as the next guy. It's a soulless, corporatized cash grab. But in his prime, Tim Burton directed some excellent films. And you can argue absolutely that he's beyond his peak, and odds are he'll never make another Mars Attacks or Ed Wood, and that his peak really came with the early 2000s, late 90s. But to argue that that peak never existed is absurd. And furthermore, to promote Henry Selick as anything more than a shadow basking in the light of this auteur is absolutely ridiculous. Henry Selick's contributions to film are nil. He has done nothing that Tim Burton has not done more effectively, 1,000 degrees more. Obviously, a lot of the films that Henry Selick has directed have been billed as from the director of The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is deliberately misleading marketing, because most people assume Tim Burton is the director of Nightmare Before Christmas, so they'll go and watch it, and then they'll be like, what was that shit? It's a lot like how the guys who were technically behind the first Scary Movie, who weren't the Wayans brothers, then branded Epic Movie and Disaster Movie and Meet the Spartans and all those garbage ones as from the guys behind Scary Movie. So you'd think, oh, this is a Wayans brothers production. but a Wayans Brothers production it ain't. It's date movie, and it's lame, and it's not as funny or clever or innovative as Scary Movie. The same thing goes when Henry Selick says, "From the director of The Nightmare Before Christmas." These are the facts as we know them. Tim Burton came up with the idea for The Nightmare Before Christmas. The Nightmare Before Christmas as a film would not exist if it weren't for Tim Burton. It's his idea at the end of the day. So whether or not Burton directed The Nightmare Before Christmas is entirely irrelevant because it would not exist without him. And it being Henry Selick's first film, you can obviously see that Henry Selick just noticed that the Tim Burton aesthetic was popular and then decided to incorporate it into all of his subsequent films. This isn't really rocket science. All Henry Selick did is take the Tim Burton aesthetic, water it down, and then repackage it. The film we're talking about today, Monkeybone, is quite possibly the pinnacle of this repackaged Tim Burton aesthetic, which certainly isn't exclusive to Henry Selick. There are other films like Igor with John Cusack that attempt to replicate it and trick people into thinking they're watching a Tim Burton movie. But I'd argue that Henry Selick's attempts to fool people into thinking they're watching a Tim Burton film are equally egregious. Monkeybone comes in what I call the Brendan Fraser era, when Brendan Fraser was in like every movie. You go back to around 2000 and it's absolutely insane just how many movies Brendan Fraser was in. After the wide-scale success of the Mummy franchise, studios just kept snapping him up and putting him in everything. Now, truth be told, while I think The Mummy is a horrible remake of the Boris Karloff original, which is superior in every conceivable way, and while I think Brendan Fraser has been in a lot of crap, he's also been in some pretty good movies over the years. The Mummy doesn't happen to be one of them. But he's a competent actor if given adequate material. Monkeybone is not one of those cases where he's given adequate material. The plot is paper thin and confusing. The characters are all directionless caricatures. Every single line of dialogue is hackneyed. Rest assured, sitting through Monkeybone, all 2 hours of this incomprehensible drivel, is torture. It's excruciating to watch this film. It's definitely one of the worst films ever made, but I never really hear it brought up in either a positive or negative context. In fact, most people seem to have forgotten about it entirely, despite carrying the star power of Brendan Fraser and Chris Kattan. Nobody really remembers Monkeybone, because at the end of the day, when all you can do is take the talent and charm and aesthetic of another director and repackage it, you're going to come up with a more forgettable product that's kind of like Tim Burton, falls into that Tim Burton type niche, but Corpse Bride it ain't, you know? Monkeybone is notable for a few reasons. For one, it has unbelievably good stop-motion animation. I will say this, is that every Henry Selick movie is an example of stop-motion animation done well. Unfortunately, much like how with anime, every anime movie is a 2D traditionally animated film, which is admirable because, let's be honest, nobody wants to watch CGI schlock like Toy Story. If every anime is traditionally animated with 2D but is also vapid and empty and doesn't have a compelling narrative and is just about a bunch of muscle men punching each other into stars and shit, it's not going to be the most compelling film to watch. The same applies to a stop-motion film which is boring and lame. Such is the case with Henry Selick's film Coraline, which is adapted from a terrible Neil Gaiman story, and as we all know, Neil Gaiman is one of the worst storytellers of the modern age, along with Alan Moore and Terry Pratchett and all those other boring British guys. Coraline is a fundamentally broken story which, much like Monkeybone, appropriates the Tim Burton aesthetic and bills itself as from the director of Nightmare Before Christmas. However, in place of the Oogie Boogie Man and the Trick-or-Treaters and Santa Claus and Jack Skellington and Dr. Finkelstein and all the incredibly memorable characters and set pieces that made The Nightmare Before Christmas an instant hit upon release, Coraline is excessively bland and drags on. It's about this entitled brat who's like, "Ugh, my parents are fucking shit. I'm sick of you, Dad. Fuck you, Dad. I'm going over to the mirror universe. I'm Coraline. I'm entitled and privileged, and I treat my parents like shit." And that's not exactly the most fun narrative to follow along with. In fact, you can't root for the protagonist, and that's a big problem in your movie, in any movie really, if you can't, like, at least root for your protagonist a little. Even in films with anti-heroes like Taxi Driver, you can at least kind of see what Travis Bickle is going for. You'd have to be insane to root for Coraline. She's one of the least compelling protagonists to watch. Just an absolute nightmare of a character, written with so many flaws and inconsistencies. To sympathize with her is an exercise in futility. Coraline is, of course, only one stain on Henry Selick's long filmography, but long before Coraline hit theaters, which I personally remember back when Coraline was in theaters, I had no idea what everyone was in a big hubbub over. He made Monkeybone. And Monkeybone, I would argue, is definitely his worst film, and really the culmination of a mind driven purely by ego and the satisfaction of having successfully pilfered someone else's style and look and tricking a bunch of suckers into thinking they were watching a Tim Burton product. As I said, the stop motion in Monkeybone is particularly captivating. Monkeybone looks extremely convincing. Now, the animated segment at the beginning is pure cringe. It looks like a cross between Duckman and Rocko's Modern Life and Courage the Cowardly Dog. I'm not a big fan of that 1990s animation style, which calls to mind greeting cards. Not sure what it is about that style, I just don't find it very compelling or enjoyable. It looks extremely dated. However, I will say that the stop-motion version of Monkeybone is a lot more fluid and really is able to interact with the live-action set pieces in a pretty convincing way. The problem, much like with Roger Rabbit, I've brought the same issue up with Roger Rabbit, is that Monkeybone is an annoying little dipshit. Just like how Roger Rabbit in Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a horrible character who you just want to see die. The really great thing about animation is that you can create interesting characters that are fun to watch and likable. Like Porky Pig, for instance. Porky Pig isn't excessively annoying and doesn't whine and scream and complain every 5 seconds. But Roger Rabbit and the Animaniacs and Monkeybone and a lot of these newer animated characters really do. And man oh man, can it just get grating on the ears and eyes and senses. I'm not sure what it is, why so many new animated characters are just total cringe and just whine and scream and complain all the time. Maybe it's that cartoons are adapting to the shorter attention spans of the modern audience, and they feel that in order to keep them watching, you need to have, Monkeybone do something outrageous every 7 seconds. But the key to a successful animation is restraint. In a competent animated film, for instance, like a Ralph Bakshi production, like Hey Good Lookin', there are obvious absurdist and surreal elements that could not happen in the real world and only could take place in a cartoon world. Yet the world still feels grounded and realistic and vibrant. Even if it is only a facsimile of our reality, it's nonetheless a place where, for instance, death is final, and certain other narrative rules cannot be escaped or broken. There's consistency in the logic of the world. In Monkeybone, there's no such logic because the entire thing takes place within a kind of dream realm known as downtown. Brendan Fraser is a successful cartoonist, and his famous cartoon, Monkeybone, who's an absolute dipshit that I really doubt anyone in the real world would find that appealing. But then again, we do live in a world where SpongeBob is praised as like this innovative genius project, so in all honesty, Monkeybone probably would be adopted as one of the most revolutionary cartoon characters of all time given the climate. Brendan Fraser is the creator of Monkeybone, and one day he's in an accident and goes comatose and is dragged into a surreal, nightmarish hellscape where his character is real. Does this sound familiar? You're darn right. It does sound familiar. It's the exact same plot of Ralph Bakshi's film Cool World, which came out almost a decade earlier. So not only is Henry Selick replicating the style of Tim Burton, but he's ripping off the story of Ralph Bakshi. So it's kind of a twofer here. Now, a lot of people have accused Cool World of being derivative of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which I would argue is actually the inferior film of the two. In Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the fat detective guy, whose actor is so forgettable that I can't even remember his name, but I do know he's Mario in the live-action 1990s Super Mario Brothers movie. He's not a cartoonist whose character Roger Rabbit came to life. That's not the plot of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. The plot of Cool World is much more interesting than the plot of Who Framed Roger Rabbit because Jack Deebs is an interesting character who goes through actual existential struggles as the result of his forays into comic making, and as a cartoonist myself, I find that scenario extremely relatable. Brendan Fraser's character in Monkeybone is a much less sympathetic or interesting character who we learn virtually nothing about. Monkeybone seems to take place in an alternate universe where people who animate and make comics are like celebrities and get this giant red carpet treatment. It certainly doesn't take place in our reality where cartoonists and animators are treated like dirt on the bottom rung of the entertainment ladder. Well, unless you happen to be John Kricfalusi, that is, in which case everyone exalts you as a god who can do no wrong. Anyway, Brendan Fraser is some kind of celebrity cartoonist who's created the annoying, petulant character Monkeybone. So Brendan Fraser gets in an accident and winds up in downtown, which is a kind of surreal comatose state located at the bottom of a giant roller coaster. Now the first problem with Monkeybone is that whereas Monkeybone is stop motion and some of the other characters are stop motion, a lot of downtown is depicted via extremely dated early 2000s CGI, which looks like complete shit. And this kind of defeats the purpose of a movie that uses stop motion to begin with. The reason The Nightmare Before Christmas works so well and everyone likes the way it looks is because it's entirely stop motion. Even the scenes set in the real world with human people are stop motion. And that's an impressive and admirable feat, mostly due to, again, Tim Burton being the producer and idea behind the movie, and just bringing on Henry Selick as director. But that's besides the point. The Nightmare Before Christmas works because it is, through and through, stop motion. However, Monkeybone's weird blend of CGI and stop motion is visually incompatible, and when you toss live action into the mix, and you have Brendan Fraser and Chris Kattan interacting with all this weird shit at once, it just becomes confusing and messy. Another problem is the basic setting, downtown. What the hell even is this? There are a lot of great films like Osmosis Jones or The Nightmare Before Christmas that take place in surreal abstractions of actual ideas, but they're not confusing like Monkeybone. I know what The Nightmare Before Christmas is. It's pretty simple. I can explain the synopsis in 3 sentences. It's a holiday world. Each holiday has its own town, and then they interact, and it gets goofy. Okay? Same with Osmosis Jones. He's a white blood cell. He works to keep germs out of the body. Bill Murray's the body. Okay, pretty simple, right? What's downtown? What the hell is it? I mean, Death is here, portrayed by Whoopi Goldberg in one of her worst roles ever. I don't even know what Whoopi Goldberg is doing here. Much like Brendan Fraser, this film has serious star power, but it does not know how to use it at all. The script is just abysmal. Whoopi Goldberg is Death. Then you have this Picasso character, and then you have like a train You have, like, a snake and shit. What is this place? What's its purpose? Like, I get that it's like a comatose state. I don't get what this is supposed to represent or be. Like, why is Monkeybone real? How can Monkeybone take advantage of Brendan Fraser's body and, like, possess him? What is this movie? It doesn't make any sense. I remember the first time I heard about Monkeybone, it was a full-page ad in a magazine, and I just see, Brendan Fraser on one side making a stupid, goofy face, Chris Kattan on the other side making a stupid, goofy face, and you got Monkeybone, cheeky little bastard, in the middle. And I was like, what is this movie? What even is this? What the hell am I looking at here? Where, like, Chris Kattan has this giant gaping wound on his stomach. The plot is too difficult to explain. It's like Chris Kattan's an organ donor, or no, he's like a dead athlete, right? And then Brendan Fraser is possessed by Monkeybone after they both escape death. Or maybe they escape from death first. Or like Monkeybone possesses Brendan Fraser, and then they switch bodies, and then they switch bodies again, and you can, like, possess dead people, and there's no rules to this universe. There's no consistent lore and world building. That's something I never felt while watching a good movie, a competent film like Ralph Bakshi's Cool World. When I watched that, I know like the lore and the history of the universe of Cool World, of the Noids and the Doodles and the different class struggles and like that. In fact, it's spelled out very plainly throughout the film, so you get a very good timeline of the history of Cool World, the progression of this universe. But you just don't get that in Monkeybone. You're presented all this complete nonsense and expected to understand it and how it works and how this universe operates. But this is like, you take a very basic concept, like Nightmare Before Christmas or whatever, and you just dial it up to 11. You just dial the shit up to the point where it becomes impossible to understand, and you don't know what's going on, and everything is just completely random. It's like noise. This is essentially the biodome of animated films. Another obvious continuity error is, why is Monkeybone stop motion in Brendan Fraser's head when in the cartoons that Brendan Fraser's character makes, he's 2D animated? Wouldn't he be 2D animated in Brendan Fraser's head? Now again, like I said, Monkeybone is animated pretty well. He does look fluid. You can buy that he's the same character, and he's voiced pretty well too. In fact, the lip syncing is pretty much on point. But the question is, why in the comatose scenes do we see Monkeybone as, like, stop motion? Is stop motion supposed to be more realistic than 2D animation? I mean, we're talking about a cartoon character come to life here, so it's not like one is more realistic or grounded than the other. They could have gone the Roger Rabbit route and had him be a 2D animated character. Possibly one of the strangest cameos in the film is of Bob Odenkirk as the head surgeon. I'm not going to get into that right now, but rest assured I will eventually do a video on the Ben Stiller show, what a landmark of comedy is and the like. You wouldn't notice it's Bob Odenkirk if you weren't looking out for him. Just another strange example of how many stars are packed into this thing for no reason. I would argue that this film has a more confusing universe even than Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice has a lot of surreal imagery in it, but while watching Beetlejuice, I never once feel confused about what's going on. I get it. Beetlejuice is a bioexorcist. Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis are dead. I get it. It's an out-there plot. It's a very surreal and abstract plot, but you know what's going on. With Monkeybone, you don't. I think Monkeybone was really like the peak of the Tim Burton ripoffs, where it just got to the point where you got so crazy, you got ideas that were just so ridiculous and absurd that they stretched the limits of believability, and movie studios were like, this is too much. I would agree. I mean, creativity is great and all. It's great to have a creative movie. But there's a difference between having a creative movie like Beetlejuice and having just a nonsense movie. And what's really insulting about Monkeybone being a nonsense movie is that it presents itself as this kind of quirky, offbeat, underground shit. Oh, it's Monkeybone. I remember the tagline for this film. Get boned. No thanks. This isn't some kind of quirky, indie shit. This is obviously a very big, overhyped studio product that's being fed down everyone's throats. Just a giant marketing campaign. Get boned this summer. Hey, do you want to get boned? No thanks. Imagine if that was the tagline for The Nightmare Before Christmas. It probably wouldn't be, huh? Why is he even called Monkeybone? He's not a skeleton monkey, he's just a monkey. He could just be called Bonzo or something, and the movie would be a lot more charming. But I guess the phallic humor in there, the kind of Freudian subliminal, is just too much for Henry Selick to resist. Gosh, this movie is cringe. Possibly the most bizarre moment is where Brendan Fraser's character is put into jail, but it's subconscious comatose jail, so he meets all these writers like Edgar Allan Poe, and there's Stephen King there. But it's not the real Stephen King, which is weird considering that this movie already has so many celebrities in it. They could have just gotten the real Stephen King. Maybe Stephen King didn't want to be in this cringe, so they just have an actor playing Stephen King, and it's so weird, because he doesn't even really look like Stephen King, and you can just tell it's a fake Stephen King. If this movie actually got Stephen King to be in it, I might give it some respect and kudos, but they can't even get real Stephen King to be in your movie. And if real Stephen King doesn't want to be in your movie, it's probably apeshit. No pun intended. I think it's really weird the extent to which people make excuses for Henry Selick, but at the end of the day, what he's done with the Tim Burton style that he blatantly rips off is no different from what the Asylum does when it makes Atlantic Rim or Transmorphers or Grim Squad or any of those hundreds of mockbusters that they churn out. I'm on record for not liking Quentin Tarantino as a director because he really doesn't bring anything new to the table that wasn't already done in 70s classics like Shaft or Dirty Harry, and he essentially just regurgitates the blaxploitation and grindhouse genre. But on the other hand, Henry Selick is even more shameless of a director in that he doesn't even replicate just a general style of filmmaking. He just replicates one director who he happened to work with once and then stole the ideas of and just replicated for the remainder of his career, which is even more scummy than I think Quentin Tarantino could even possibly dream of. Henry Selick is a new level of corruption and moral bankruptcy on the director scale. To all those Henry Selick fans out there who are typing angry comments down below, I know you don't exist because my videos just get 50 views on average, so odds are no Henry Selick fans are watching this because my content is criminally underrated. But suppose you are a Henry Selick fan and you make the argument, oh, but Nicholas, he does have his own style. I can tell a Tim Burton movie and a Henry Selick movie apart. Enlighten me. What stuff is in Henry Selick movies that isn't in Tim Burton movies? What's in there? What does Henry Selick movies got that Tim Burton movies ain't got? What's distinct about Henry Selick's directorial style if he's such a visionary? What's unique about him? What's in there? What they got? Let me know. But I really doubt you can name something that's in Henry Selick movies that isn't done way, way better in a Tim Burton movie, like Beetlejuice or Ed Wood or something. Overall, I think Monkeybone is an interesting film to watch, as are most of the films I cover on this channel, because I don't really prefer covering Marvel movies. I know if I covered Marvel movies and a lot of mainstream shit, that I could get a lot more views because it's a lot more relevant. But I think by covering really obscure stuff like Monkeybone, for instance, I just find that to be a much more interesting video when all is said and done. There really aren't any videos about Monkeybone out there, and I hope to shed light on this horrible atrocity of a film that's just so bad and cringe. One can only imagine how Tim Burton felt if he ever watched Monkeybone, or ever plans on watching Monkeybone. Maybe he feels like Brendan Fraser, helpless in that comatose state, as Monkeybone, aka Henry Selick, controls his body around and just possesses his style and is just like, this is my aesthetic now, hee hee hee. That's an interesting reading of the film if you think about it. One's own creation getting away from them. Tim Burton being Brendan Fraser, the actual visionary, and Henry Selick being Monkeybone, the annoying derivative, who's just there to crack wise and be a cheap little jackass. At the end of the day, I think Tim Burton gets way too much shit for a director of his caliber. And while it might not be the 90s anymore, and goth shit might not be in, and nobody really looks at, white makeup and eyeshadow is the big thing anymore, Tim Burton did define pretty much the entire aesthetic of an entire generation, which is something very few people can even claim to have done. Before Tim Burton movies, there were not movies like Tim Burton movies. What Kurt Cobain did for the grunge movement, and Kim Casey did for the hippie movement, and Justin Bieber did for the cringe movement, Tim Burton did for the goth movement. He is the quintessential gothic filmmaker. Few dare come close to his caliber of excellence in the field. You might be saying that Henry Selick is some kind of creative visionary with this amazing look and feel and style. But I would argue that to be termed a true creative visionary, you should have your own style. You can't just pilfer someone else's and go, looky, it's mine. This is my thing now. That's not how it works. At the end of the day, I think Henry Selick's films, every single one of them, Coraline, Paranorman, all that weird Leica nonsense he made, Paranorman, how many of these even are there? And especially, of course, Monkeybone, are just real filler, and stop motion deserves way better. For a genre and style of animation that is so diverse and can produce such spectacular results, I would really expect better than this Tim Burton knockoff. Anywho, that's my thoughts on Monkeybone, on Henry Selick's career. I think Henry Selick is a real charlatan, and it's about time he was put in his place, because for all everyone accuses a lot of stuff of being a knockoff or a ripoff, I'm really surprised just how much credit everyone gives Henry Selick. Like, oh, this guy's the real Tim Burton. No, he's not. He's the fake Tim Burton. That's literally all he's ever done. He's just the director of The Nightmare Before Christmas. But he ain't Tim Burton. Okay? Sorry. That's how it is. Anyway, Monkeybone is a movie that makes me very upset, and I don't even know why. Because it's really a movie that nobody even knows about, nobody even cares about. But I figured I'd ruin your day by bringing it up and telling you about it, and now you know about it, so I hope your day is as miserable as mine has been, because I can't stop thinking about Monkeybone. I'm scared that he's going to pop out of my head, manifest right here, and hit me with a shovel or something. The little bastard. Then again, I obsess over SpongeBob just as much, and I haven't seen SpongeBob, so I really hope they don't show up like a J-Station video at 3 a.m. and terrorize me. That certainly would be a frightening prospect. Man, oh man, am I sick of talking about animated characters with insufferably screechy voices and manic obsessive disorder. Alright, that's going to do it for this week's video, this little review. Hopefully you enjoyed, maybe you didn't. If you didn't and you're a Henry Selick fan, let me know in the comments as to why Henry Selick is an underrated virtuoso and the second coming of the animation messiah. And until next time, press those buttons and get down with the sickness and go down to Flavor Town and smash the button and smash it again and smash it until it gives up, and that's going to do it. Sporama.